Welcome back, my friends. To make project management a little bit more meaningful, we're going to take a look at some content from this book called the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. I want to go through with you at a very high level what we call the 12 principles of project management. I am going to walk through this with you very quick, and by the time we're done, you have a firmer idea about the 12 principles that PMI have put in the 7th edition. So let's jump into it. As you can see on the screen here, we have numbers 1 to 12. Let's zoom into each one. The first principle in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition is stewardship. And it just reads, be a diligent, respectful, and caring steward. A steward is a fiduciary of the resources entrusted to them. Think of them as a gatekeeper that ensures that the resources are being used as intended. There are also people who are involved in compliance measures, ensuring that the company or the institution is in compliance with whatever regulations or laws need to be upheld. And that's the very first one in a nutshell. It just reads, stewards act responsibly to carry out activities with integrity, care, and trustworthiness while maintaining compliance with internal and external guidelines. They demonstrate a broad commitment to financial, social, and environmental impacts of the projects they support. Number 2. Second one here is collaboration. And it just reads, create a collaborative project team environment. Project teams are made up of individuals who wield diverse skills, knowledge, and experience. Project teams that work collaboratively can accomplish a shared objective more effectively and efficiently than individuals working on their own. So there's a benefit. Teamwork makes the dream work. There's a quote from the great Anna Wintour, editor-in-chief of Vogue, that I love so much. And her quote is, you are nothing without the team. Isn't that true? When you've got a high-functioning team, together, they do great things. Number 3, stakeholders. It reads, effectively engage with stakeholders. Engage stakeholders proactively and to the degree needed to contribute to project success and customer satisfaction. Number 4, value. It just reads, focus on value. If it's not valuable, don't do it. If it's not value, cut it off. Continually evaluate and adjust project alignment to business objectives and intended benefits and value. I'm going to read a few definitions from the book for you, just to give you further context about value. It says, many projects, though not all, are initiated based on a business case. Projects may be initiated due to any identified need to deliver or modify a process, product, or service, such as contracts, statements of work, or other documents. In all cases, the project intent is to provide the desired outcome. That word is important. That addresses the need with a valued solution. A business case can contain return on investments, expected key performance measures, evaluations, and alternative approaches. So talking about the business case, it makes a case for the project. And to be quite honest, a project should only become a project if it offers value. Number 5, systems. Recognize, evaluate, and respond to systems interaction. It simply says here in PMI's PMBOK 7, recognize, evaluate, and respond to the dynamic circumstances within and surrounding the project in a holistic way to positively affect project performance. So the mindset is you got to respond to the dynamic circumstances around you by seeing the holistic big picture view of the project. That is what leaders do. It's like seeing the vision and understanding how things are unfolding. Number 6, leadership is my favorite. It says, demonstrate and adapt leadership behaviors to support individual and team needs. So you got to demonstrate leadership behaviors, and the reason is to adapt to the needs of the team. It says leadership is not exclusive to any specific role. High-performing projects may feature multiple people exhibiting effective leadership skills. For example, the project manager, sponsors, stakeholders, senior management, or even project team members. Anyone working on a project can demonstrate effective leadership traits, styles, and skills to help the project team perform and deliver the required results. Number 7, tailor. Simply reads tailor based on context. What are we saying? You got to tailor your project management tools, techniques to project. Moving on to number 8, quality. It says, build quality into processes and deliverables. It says quality is a degree to which a set of inherent characteristics of a product, service, or result fulfills the requirements. Quality includes the ability to satisfy the customer's stated or implied needs, product, service, or result of a project, referred to here as deliverable, is measured for the quality of both the conformance to acceptance criteria and fitness for use. I have often said that quality has many dimensions, and they're tackled here in PMBOK 7. And this is one of my favorite areas. It says, when we talk about quality, we should not limit it to performance, conformity, reliability, resilience, satisfaction, which is a big one, because if your customer is not satisfied, forget it. Quality has not been achieved. Quality is perceptual, and it's in the eye of the customer chiefly. Uniformity, efficiency, and sustainability. All of these are pieces of quality. I like looking at it from a Kaizen lens as well, continuous improvement. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9, complexity. It reads, navigate complexity. Let's break that down a little bit more. It says, some of the more common sources of complexity are human behavior, system behavior, uncertainty, and ambiguity. Don't forget technological innovation. So let's define complexity. It reads, project complexity or complexity is a characteristic of a project or its environment that is difficult to manage due to human behavior, system behavior, and ambiguity. The nature and number of the interactions determine the degree of complexity in a project. Complexity emerges from project elements, interactions between project elements, and interactions with other systems. Let me break it down in a few words. Difficult to understand. Difficult to understand from a scope perspective, from a requirements perspective, from a technicality perspective, from a moving parts perspective. And you know the thing about complexity, you may feel that you understand everything in the beginning, only for a question to be asked, and then for you to realize very quickly, with cold sweat coming over you, because I've been there before, and you realize you are so far away from a full understanding. That's what complexity looks like. Complexity can emerge at any point in time. It could emerge at the beginning, it could emerge in the middle, and it could emerge at the end. And you know the worst thing when it emerges at the end, when you think you're just getting to the goal and you realize, wow, we are so far away. We got a long ways to go. It's not a nice feeling, I can tell you that. Here in the PMBOK guide, it says complexity may emerge and the impact of the project in any area and impact the project in any area and at any point in the project lifecycle. Project teams can identify elements of complexity throughout the project by continually looking at the project component as well as the project as a whole for signs of complexity. Now, since we're talking about complexity, I want to show you a model which may help your understanding of complexity a little bit more. And this is known as the Stacy complexity model. We call it a complexity model because it opens our eyes to better understand the topic of complexity, looking at 2 dimensions. On the y-axis that I'm about to show you, we will see requirements uncertainty. And on the x-axis, we'll be taking a look at technical uncertainty. So let's share that slide. Here we go. This is what we call the Stacy complexity model, created by Ralph Douglas Stacy, rest his soul, great mind in the business community. When we take a look at this, we see that there are different ways we could manage an endeavor. We could manage an endeavor like this. From a simple perspective, right here, or from a more agile perspective right here. And what do we have on the y-axis? We have R for requirements, and on the x-axis, we have T for technology. You could be very certain about the requirements or very uncertain. You could be very certain about the technology or very uncertain. If you are very uncertain, you find yourself here on both axes, uncertain about the requirements, uncertain about the technology. You're in anarchy, you're in trouble. You got to make something simpler. You got to make something come down on this axis of the requirements to get a better grasp of it. You got to make something come down in terms of the technology. How do you do that? By tackling the project a bite at a time. And that is by making things agile. By applying agility, you're then able to break down the work into simpler pieces, and therefore you are reducing complexity. You are taking away the state of anarchy, bringing things down to a more manageable domain. And that's what we mean when we talk about navigating complexity. One of the key ways of navigating complexity is by being agile. By being agile, you will be better able to manage the state of complexity. All right, let's move on to our next one, number 10. It's risk. We've talked a little bit about risk today, and this just reads, optimize risk responses. So what exactly are we saying here? Optimizing risk responses means doing the best thing for the project in terms of managing the risk. It just says continually evaluate exposure to risk, both opportunities and threats, to maximize positive impacts and minimize negative impacts to the project and its outcomes. It says project team members engage with relevant stakeholders to understand their risk appetite and risk threshold. Risk appetite describes the degree of uncertainty an organization or individual is willing to accept in anticipation of a reward. It's like I ask you, how hungry are you? Well, I can tell how hungry you are by how desperate you act. Like if you're very hungry, I measure that by how much you're willing to eat. In terms of risk appetite, in the same token, I measure risk appetite by how much risk you're willing to eat. In other words, how much risk are you willing to take on in pursuit of an opportunity? And that's what risk appetite is all about. Then we also have risk threshold, which is a measure of acceptable variation. So when we talk about risk, you also need to think about your stakeholders' willingness to take risk on. We may talk about that later on, but let's talk about the final two. We have adaptability, which just simply says embrace adaptability and resiliency. It just says be agile. That's really what it's saying. Be agile to be resilient. And lastly, change. Enable change to achieve the envisioned future state. Don't fight the change. Welcome the change, embrace the change, go with the change. And that pretty much is your 12 principles of project management. And right now, my friends, we have sufficiently covered at this level the 12 principles. We've covered the 49 processes, 5 process groups, the 10 knowledge areas. Now you've got a fairly good idea of what project management is at this level. I want to begin to expose you to additional documentation. And to do that, I'll take you to our website when we come back. Again, show some support, hit the like button, subscribe, share with your friends.